How's it going?
Good evening, everyone. I'm trying something a little bit different with my camera this evening. I hope it's at an appropriate angle for you guys. Tonight, our guest of honor is Dip, and he is in the kennel, and he probably won't come out while we're chatting this evening. He likes to sleep in the kennel, which is why we leave it open during the day. He finds it to be very restful. It's kind of dark, it's relatively quiet, and he definitely appreciates that, especially with the puppy in the house. Thank you guys again so much for joining me. I'm going to keep it a little short tonight because we are going to go over to the pool after this. It is just too darn hot. I hope that the UK is enjoying the cooler weather over there, but here it is just insufferable. I was seeing that Phoenix is approaching 27, 28 days of 100 plus temperatures. I think they said the high for today was 116, which is absolutely insane. But I have long held that nobody should live in Phoenix at all, period. I'm on the same wavelength as King of the Hill and Bobby. When he gets out of the car in Phoenix, he says, why does this city exist? It should not exist. And every time I've been to Phoenix, I've always thought it feels like God hates this city because it is so unbearably hot 90% of the time. But for whatever reason, people still live there, and it's still like an industrious center. So whatever works for people. I do hear people from Texas complaining about the temperature a lot. It is very hot over there, especially right now. I actually don't hear people in Florida complain about the heat as much, but maybe that's because we have much more access to water. But I assume that in the hotter parts of Texas as well, they have more access to pools and everything. So I don't know what they're complaining about, but I feel like every time I log onto the internet, I see Texans complaining about it. And I'm like, Floridans have it at least as bad over here. And depending on where you are, the humidity is 10 times worse than it is in Texas. But I digress. I saw discouraging news today, so I think we'll open with that. We don't have a lot of really great news today. We're just going to kind of discuss it the way it is. On the bright side, Joe Biden is actually going to be forced to deal with the actions of his ridiculously corrupt actions. I hope. It really is very much up to the GOP. We'll see what they do with their positioning, and yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on that count for sure, but we'll see what happens. Let me tweak my camera a little bit more. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right, let's read about patriotism in the state in the U.S. Patriotism in free fall. Just 39% of U.S. adults and 18% of young people are extremely proud to be American. Among younger adults, less than 1/5 are highly patriotic. Wow, that's so sad. Americans are growing ever less keen on being American, a new poll shows. Gallup researchers found that the share of U.S. adults expressing pride in their nation has declined steadily for 2 decades. Currently, just 39% say they're extremely proud to be American. For young adults aged between 18 and 34, only 18% say they're extremely proud of their nationality. Gallup said that patriotism has reached a record low, suggesting it was linked to the nation's increasingly partisan politics. Party affiliation doubtless plays a role too. Researchers said, yes, it does. Democrats are distinctly less likely to say that they care about the country at all. At all. U.S. adults' pride in being American 2001 to 2023. So here we see this gigantic, massive spike in late 2001. We all remember what happened then. It looks like it peaks in 2003 and then starts its steady decline between 2004 and 2005. It drops pretty steeply. I think that's the steepest decline. And I don't remember exactly what happened in 2004. If you guys can remind me in the chat. Greg says, I love my country, hate my government. Man, I'm in the same boat. In fact, every time I say that I'm patriotic, I have to clarify that I love the people and I love the country, but I don't like the government. And that shouldn't be complicated. Loving the country entails caring about the land, caring about the people, and not caring at all about the government. I think that's just fair. That's the way I think of it anyway. So we have percentage extremely/very proud. Extremely/very proud. What is the distinction? One's blue and one's red. I'm not sure what that means. Are these Republicans and these are Democrats? Because this is much higher than the Republicans. I don't think that can be right. It doesn't say. Patriotism by age and political affiliation. 42% of Republicans say, what do they say? This is confusing. How proud are you? Very proud, moderately proud, only a little proud, or not at all? This is not helpful because it doesn't tell me what question they're asking here. It just says 18 to 34, 42% Republicans, independents 25%, and Democrats 12%. So this must be extremely proud. So 42% of 18 to 34 say they're not very proud. Okay. Oh yeah, we have to re-X Andy real fast, which I forgot to do yesterday. Please forgive me, dear. Oh yeah. Eating bugs. Right-wing conspiracy must be enforced. Which will it be? Dun, dun, dun. All right, I can't retweet myself, so I'm relying on you guys to go out there and answer Andy's insightful poll while I try to figure out what the heck this poll is trying to say. I don't get it. Percentages? Okay, whatever. We're going to ignore that. It doesn't make sense to me. Fully 60% of Republicans say they're extremely proud to be American compared to just Republicans, yeah, say they're extremely proud to be American compared to just 29% of Democrats. Pride in one's national identity continues to differ most sharply among partisans, with more Republicans than Democrats saying they are proud. Yes, so people are trying to tie this with education, and I think that's certainly part of it, but I think at the end of the day what it comes down to is when I think about pride in my country, I'm forced to stop and reconsider what I mean by that, because when I saw a news article today about China shutting down its last LGBTQ center in Shanghai, and I thought, you know what, that's fantastic, and I'm glad they're doing that. And I think that every single country should resist the West's attempts to colonize them through ideology, because that's what I see happening, and that disgusts me. And that's very much up there with disliking my government, because I know that no regular American person would go over to a different country and hang the pride flag instead of the American flag at our embassies. That's just never going to happen, and I don't think that normal people think that way at all. In fact, some data that we read earlier this year seemed to indicate that most people do not think that politics is a good way to judge your neighbors at all, which I think is fantastic. Normal people aren't about that life. But unfortunately, our government is not at all run by normal people. It's run by really, really weird people. People who can lie to people the best and people who can get out ahead of things the best. And honestly, we have put the worst people in charge of us, and they are telling us what they want to do, and it's discouraging. And I don't blame people for feeling less patriotic, because they're looking at things like the pride flag outside of the Vatican, and they're thinking, wow, that's crazy. If that's what this country is, I want nothing to do with it. Now, on the left, you have the idea that America is bad, horrible, intrinsically racist, and we're going to talk about racism in the next article, so don't worry about that, as well as eating bugs, so it's going to be good. They think that the U.S. is intrinsically, inherently, systemically evil. So that's why they're not patriotic. But at the same time, on the right side, we are looking at this country and we're saying we're actually trying to colonize other countries with the rainbow flag. And that's incredibly disturbing. And that is making me ashamed to go out there and tell people that I'm an American, because it just looks bad. You know what I mean? It feels bad. It feels dirty, because calling myself an American, and I know that this has been the end goal of the left, but calling myself an American at this point in time now just means I belong to the country that's going to come to your country and put a flag on our embassy that says we care more about gay people than we care about actual 100% everybody in America. It's not good. It's not good, and I don't blame people for feeling less patriotic. And I know it is divided along partisan lines. I appreciate that Republicans care more about their country overall as a country. But at the end of the day, I don't see patriotism being able to hold up under much more Democrat influence, because it's wearing. Like, having to defend what the U.S. is doing constantly, it feels borderline impossible to me at this point, because it's like, why would I want to defend this country? They are telling me I'm evil, I'm a Nazi, because I disagree with them. I disagree with the government, so they're going to be listening to me. They're going to be calling me a terrorist if I ever go to a school board meeting. There's no friendship between me and my government. Why would I care what people think of the country, or even what I think of the country? Because things are not going well, and I don't know. I feel like it's just going to get worse before it gets better. I also am somewhat convinced that we're going to lose in 2024. And I have a lot of reasons for thinking that. We know that Donald Trump is, in fact, a turnout machine, which is great for his supporters. But it's really bad because he also galvanizes the people who hate him the very most. And I personally firmly believe this is what happened in 2020. You saw people who had no idea what the issues were, who didn't care at all about the candidates, who just were told by the media relentlessly, and their neighbors, people they knew, their community, were telling them to get out there and vote against Trump. Vote blue, no matter who, as long as it gets Trump out of office. And I think that's just what we're facing again in 2024. And I think that the fixation with making sure that Trump is the nominee, under the impression that he can win by some kind of miracle, is misled at best. Now, with that said, it is early, and again, as always, I always clarify this, I always add this on the end, and no one ever seems to catch it, but I hope that I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong, because I'm about to have a child, and I would love to be wrong. I would love for conservative leadership to take over this country and kind of fix some of the problems that Democrats have done nothing but make worse for the past 3 years already. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm concerned that the stubbornness in the Trump camp is going to make it such that if and when we do end up losing, they will do nothing but blame people like me who were trying to warn them that this might happen, which is especially frustrating because I'm just trying to tell them what I think will happen. I don't hate Donald Trump. I think he's great. He's fine. He did a good job from 2016 to 2020, whatever. He managed to get good justices on the Supreme Court. But but he made a lot of unforced errors. He made a lot of mistakes. He hired people that he hates now. He gave Anthony Fauci a medal. The list is long. It is long. He made a lot of mistakes. And I know that that's at least partly because he wasn't a politician, which more power to him. But at the end of the day, I'm not convinced that there won't be more and worse mistakes next time around if he does get in office. However, Trump being in office would be way preferable to Biden being in office. I'm just concerned that we won't make it to that point. But Stewart says, the Pride agenda is a global agenda. You can denounce it and still be patriotic wherever you are from. I would like to think that, but I don't see other countries doing it to quite the degree the U.S. does. For whatever reason, we take a great deal of pride in pushing this, no pun intended, even where other countries don't do it quite as much. So, I don't know. Hopefully that'll change. I can't help feeling, I will say for all this depressing talk, that I'm also of the impression that the dam's about to break. I think that the back of the social justice and the ideological movement that we're seeing right now with all of this identity politicking is going to break soon. And I could not be happier. I'm really, really optimistic about that. I think it has 5 to maybe 10 years left at best, hopefully, optimistically. Again, though, I could be wrong about that. We'll see. I've been wrong about things in the past. I will be wrong about things in the future. It's part of being human. I'm just looking at the trend that I'm seeing now. It seems like people are less and less willing to put up with it, the normal people. But we're about to find out what power the normal people still have. So that's part of the reason I'm not holding my breath. I don't feel like normal people have much power anymore. Josie says, if people vote for Biden, they deserve what's coming to them. I'll vote with my feet, money, and at the ballot box for anyone but Biden. Yes, same for me. Bird Flu says, Canadian Muslims don't care for it. Created an interesting conundrum for the woke. That's right. We talked about this a while ago. The same thing, something similar happened in Virginia in Fairfax County when there was a county commissioner who came out and said that Muslims were aligning with white supremacists because they don't like this pride stuff. That was really interesting because the Muslims were like, are you freaking kidding? We just don't want our kids taught this stuff, and we are tired of you shoving it down our throats. Please stop and stop lumping us in with extremists because we're just parents who care about our kids. Please and thanks. And she ended up having to apologize for that. But yeah, I don't think they were thinking about long-term durability when they were building their woke coalition and including these people who are much more fundamental in their beliefs than Christians are in the U.S. All right, let's read about NPR. NPR ridiculed for regurgitating claim, haha, nice choice of words, Blaze, that the movement to push bug food on the masses is a racist conspiracy theory. How did they reach this conclusion? Let's read more. NPR's race-obsessed and taxpayer-subsidized show Code Switch recently peddled the notion that it is conspiratorial thinking to take proponents of the bug food movement at their word. What's more, host Gene Demby's guest on the July 19th episode entitled This Right-Wing Conspiracy Theory About Eating Bugs is About as Racist as You Think. Let me pause and ask you guys exactly how racist you think the conspiracy theory about eating bugs actually is, because I'd never made the connection. So this to me smacks of them saying that being against people grooming your kids is white supremacy. Anything that goes against the agenda is white supremacy. It has nothing to do with race. We just don't want kids to be indoctrinated with nonsense. That's pretty much the bottom line, but they have to make it about race because to a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and they are nothing if not hammers. All right, let's read on. Has intimated that criticism both of bug food and of those technocrats who seek to alter consumer behavior may be racist. NPR has since been met with ridicule by those who are aware that the desire to supplement or replace normal food with bugs is not a conspiracy theory, but rather a real initiative with a substantial momentum, which has been long detailed and defended in academic journals, trusted publications, and even on NPR, which might shock the people over at NPR who apparently don't read the publication, and not saying that I blame them. An emerging but still marginal idea. NPR reporter Wo Jingnan joined Code Switch host Gene Demby on last week's episode to regurgitate talking points for his April NPR article, wherein he simultaneously held that the claim that the elites want people to eat bugs was a right-wing conspiracy theory, while also acknowledging the inclusion of bugs in human food was an emerging but still marginal idea among climate scientists and food security experts. So, We are at this point in the it's not happening, but it's good that it is cycle. Okay, so you guys know how this goes. They will start by saying this isn't happening at all, and they'll start by saying, well, it is happening, but only a little bit. And then they'll continue by saying it's good that it is happening. And then they move on and say, you're a bigot for wishing that it weren't happening, or by speaking out against it, aka you're bad for noticing. And then you're a bigot if you don't go along with it, obviously. And at the end of the day, they're going to force you to go along with it. For those who espouse the theory, eating bugs isn't just a matter of disgust or questioning the impact of climate change. He wrote, an admitted fan of eating silkworms. It's framed as a matter of individual freedom and government control. That's correct. You should have the choice if you want to eat bugs. You should have that option, maybe. That's fine. I think that's not a big deal. But if you don't want to eat bugs, you should have the right to say, I'm not going to eat that. And you can't make me eat that. And I don't care about global warming enough to ever eat anything remotely like a bug. Jingnan hinted at both in his article and on Demby's show that there must also be a racial component to the growing concerns about the bug food movement and the motivations driving it. After tying bug food aversion to right-wing resistance to the Great Reset, the NPR reporter suggested that possible anti-Semitic tropes might be at play. Allowing himself what he called a little bit of a stretch, I'll say, he argued by way of broken syllogism that bug food critics might also share something in common with identitarian exponents of the Great Replacement theory, an idea which they purport and hold as true, just for the record. They are the ones talking about the browning of America. They are the ones crowing about how great it is that there will be fewer white people in the future. In case those smears might not stick, he indicated that an aversion to bugs might also be demonstrative of a through line between conservatives and colonizers who allegedly took pause at tribal people's consumption of creepy crawlers, to which I just have to stop and say, aren't we supposed to avoid cultural appropriation? Wouldn't eating bugs be cultural appropriation of these other cultures? Be consistent, for Pete's sake. Pick your line and go with it, but at least be consistent. Give me a break. The NPR reporter further claimed that Tucker Carlson, the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles, Alex Jones, and others have been trafficking in such dog whistles, which only these people can hear, very telling who the dogs actually are, while discussing their opposition to the prospect of eating bugs, and that those with whom this so-called conspiracy theory resonates are likely, quote, unvaccinated, male, conservative, Trump-voting Republican, and also not college-educated. That's right. The only good, smart people in the world are college-educated, and don't you forget it. NPR's marginal idea on repeat. Marginal indeed. Stewart says, who are they? LOL. That is a great question. While Demby appeared keen to write off the bug food movement as not that big a deal, and Jingnan intimated that it might just be the MAGA crowd who are paying attention, critics have pointed that NPR's publication history suggests otherwise. Here are titles of just a few NPR features in recent months and years. These pictures might tempt you to eat bugs. July 2013. Making food from flies. It's not that icky. September 2013. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson is now munching on bugs. March 2015. Wow, it really feels like they're pushing an agenda. I wonder where people got this crazy conspiracy idea that the college-educated elites are going to want us to eat bugs in the future. That's so crazy. Street food, no more. Bug snacks move to store shelves in Thailand. April 2015. Are insects the future of food? November 2016. At Bug Eating Festival, kids crunch down on the food of the future. September 2017. Your ancestors probably ate insects, so what's bugging you? July 2018. 4 ways that wild edibles, including insects, will wow you. December 2018. And should hyping edible bugs focus on the experience instead of the environment? January 2019. So, again, I would like to emphasize that I forgive these reporters for not reading NPR. I don't blame them. I don't think that anyone should use NPR at all because this is exactly the kind of thing they do. Greg, thank you very much for your vomiting emoji. Yes, I'm very much on the same page on the topic of eating bugs. Not into it. Bugs carry a whole host of parasites that are incredibly bad for human beings. There's a reason that modern industrialized countries do not eat bugs. You don't eat bugs unless you have to. Stephen Miller, contributing editor at The Spectator, whom I follow and enjoy immensely, asked, "And does anyone at NPR read or listen to NPR?" And the answer is no. And then he just shares a collection of these articles that we just went through. And yeah, it's disgusting. They've been pushing it since 2013. NPR, the right-wing racist conspiracy theory about eating bugs. Also NPR, are insects the future of food? That's right. I don't know where we're getting these crazy ideas. What a conspiracy theory. Lori says, sorry I'm late. Better late than never. I'm glad you could make it. American author Michael Schellenberger said of Jingnain's April article, these articles all begin with smearing people who are upset about something, like bug eating, puberty blockers for autistic kids, gas stove bans, etc., as conspiracy theorists, and end with a promotion of the thing people are upset about. The gaslighting is breathtaking, which I just have to add, gaslighting is probably not good for the environment, guys. Knock it off over there at NPR. Schellenberger added, we must understand that media elites are using the words conspiracy theory, disinformation, and misinformation as ways to control thought and demonize and censor people raising legitimate concerns about the crap policies and programs they want to impose on us. Twitter user EndWokeness wrote, the propaganda is getting lazy. Texas Rangers 4 says, I will not eat the bugs or live in a pod. I don't blame you, and I don't think you will have to. However, I do recall seeing some pieces about how Canada is adding crickets to food. So let's look that up. Canada. Oh, Canada. Crickets. Let's see if we can find anything about that. Yeah, crickets in food, Canada. Cricket flour can be used as an added ingredient for smoothies, yogurt, soups, oatmeal, and baked goods, among other things. And with its neutral flavor, it won't affect the taste. Those who advocate consuming crickets point out that the insects are better at converting feed to protein compared to larger livestock. Interesting. Crickets in food, Canada. Yeah, okay, so here we have from the Daily Hive. Canada is raising crickets as a source of protein, looking to crickets as an environmentally friendly source for Canadians. So let's see. Yeah. Why Canada wants you to know you're eating crickets from the Smithsonian. In some countries, insects may be finally getting their due as affordable, nutritious protein sources. They are going to make you eat the bugs, and they're not even going to have the politeness to tell you that they're making you do it. So it's so great. Really appreciate, love that for them. Disgusting. You should at least have the option to opt out, as is always the case. But increasingly you are getting fewer and fewer chances to say no, and you have to stop and ask why that is. All right, reality versus NPR. Whereas the NPR duo suggested that there is not a campaign by elites to supplement or replace Western diets with insects and insect byproducts, a 2017 review published in the journal Agronomy for Sustainable Development suggested that rather than meat, humans could instead try eating weeds, microalgae, and bugs. I would much rather eat microalgae than bugs. Jeez. Greg, thank you for your super chat. Glad I don't live in Canada. The problem with Canada is that what they start up there comes down here. It's a little bit like California. They are the trendsetters. It's horrifying. Stevie says you will own the libs and be happy 100%. You can bet your buttons that I absolutely am delighted to do so. A 2018 research article from Frontiers in Nutrition discussing how best to foist insects on human beings suggested Westerners averse to eating lizard food have a, quote, stereotyped knowledge of insects and other species, and the association of some of those animals with decaying matter and feces could lead to psychological contamination of the entire category. Well, let's take a quick peek. Insects and parasites that affect humans. I'm very curious. 3 types of parasites can cause disease. Okay, that's not what I'm interested in. All right. A parasitological evaluation of edible insects and their role in the transmission of parasitic diseases to humans and animals. This can and does happen. Look at this. From January 1st, 2018, came into force regulation, EU regulation 2015. The European Parliament and Council, etc., introduced the concept of novel foods, including insects and their parts. So this is happening in the EU as well. One of the most commonly used species are mealworms, cockroaches, house crickets, migratory locusts. In this context, the unfathomable issue is the role of edible insects in transmitting parasitic diseases that can cause significant losses in their breeding and may pose a threat to humans and animals. The aim of this study was to identify and evaluate the developmental forms of parasites colonizing edible insects in household farms and pet stores in Central Europe. Okay, so it's very specific to Europe. Let's see what their conclusion is, if they have anything right off the top of their heads. These studies are so long. I'm glad we have the whole thing, though. Sometimes it's behind a paywall. Let's see what they conclude. All right, so we need more research. Insects may be a bacterial vector / reservoir. There are no data available for bacteriological tests in breeding insects. Shouldn't we know before we start feeding these to people en masse what the parasite situation is going to be and what the bacteria is going to be like? Yeah, it's a problem. The article further intimated that social engineering may be necessary to bring about a large-scale behavioral change in favor of insect-based diets. Good luck doing that to Americans, because I'm patriotic. I love that Americans are incredibly stubborn, incredibly willful, and impossible to change their minds. Andy says, no problem. All we need to do is keep up to date on all our vaccines. So I'm told. We'll see what happens. Stuart says The Lesser of Two Weevils. Name that movie. That's a good one. Oh, I remember that. I forget what movie that's from. Stevie says, I heard the chitin in their exoskeletons is bad for us, but don't know if that's true. That's a great question. Yep. Sorenko says some people have the inability to digest it, so it causes gastrointestinal issues. I'm sure that's the case for sure as well, but they'll probably come up with something like lactate to make it possible to digest. Yeah. In late 2021, the European Union ruled that bugs are fit for human consumption. Right, so that's linked with the study that we were just looking at, and may be sold in frozen, dried, and powdered forms. In January, the EU approved cricket powder as a novel food that could be added to bread, pasta, and other foods. The EU has stated the environmental benefits of rearing insects for food are founded on the high feed conversion efficiency of insects, less greenhouse gas emissions, less waste of water and arable lands, and the use of insect-based bioconversion as a marketable solution for reducing food waste. Why don't we just focus on not wasting the food that we currently eat? Because I'm inclined to agree. We do waste too much food. We certainly do in the West. We treat it very cavalierly, and thanks to bureaucracy, we have to throw a lot of food away. In fact, there was an article the other day about outrage over Walmart throwing away $200,000 worth of food at the end of some kind of, so I forget what length of time it was. It wasn't at the end of a day. It was maybe at the end of a week, but they were getting rid of a bunch of food, and that grossed me out. I hate that. I know that there are some places in the world where if you have too much food, you are encouraged to donate it to homeless shelters or to soup kitchens or wherever people may need it. I think if we have too much, we should find ways to freeze it, repackage it, reuse it, dry it, do whatever we need to do. There has to be something. Andy says a vax a day keeps the bug parasites away. Oh, good. That's good. I can see the future already. Thanks for that, dear. That's so encouraging. WEF ran an article in February 2022 touting bugs as, quote, an excellent alternative source of protein and a way to significantly reduce our carbon footprint. WEF author went so far as to suggest insects are part of a virtuous ecocycle. Virtuous! That is an interesting application of the word virtue. I don't like that. That is skeevy. And I really, really hate how that makes me feel. Don't tell us what virtue is, WEF. I'm not interested. MoneyWise reported earlier this year that North American companies and consumers are expected to play a big part in the growth of global edible insect market that's estimated to be worth more than $9 billion by 2030. The Blaze detailed in March an initiative in one Utah school district to send students home with bugs to eat as part of an English assignment. Jeez, guys, this is crazy. Oh, Stuart says Master and Commander with Russell Crowe. That's correct. That is correct. Stevie adds laws keep Walmart from donating their food. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. It's the bureaucracy here that is, tying our hands. If we didn't have all of this red tape, we would be able to give this food to people who actually need it and ultimately waste less. But we can't do that because the big government that's going to swoop in and save us from global warming is telling us that we can't do that. Janice says they can in Illinois. Good for Illinois for doing this. I'm happy to hear that for sure. It sounds like it goes on a state-by-state basis. Hopefully more states will come around. All right, you guys, it's finally happening. Cue the Ron Paul gif of him going, "It's happening." Here we go. Here we go. It's happening. Are you guys ready for this? Kevin McCarthy threatens Biden impeachment again. Speaker claims president has lied to the American public about son Hunter's business deals and is hiding info like Nixon. Is anything going to happen with this? What do you guys think? Tell me. Let's pretend we have a poll in the chat. Tell me if you think anything's actually going to come of this. Andy says, explain to me why I should be more afraid of supposedly around 1 degree hotter per century than the kinds of economic devastation we've seen this decade as a result of last decade's climate policy. That is a great question. Thank you, dear. I have no answer for you. I don't think you should in any way be more concerned about 1 degree difference. And I don't believe anything these people say because they like to buy houses on Martha's Vineyard and down here where the water is at risk of rushing everyone away in the next hurricane or whatever it is they're saying is happening now. I simply said that withholding the agencies from being able to work with us, that would rise to the level of impeachment inquiry. McCarthy refused to nail down a date for when he would hold a vote to launch an inquiry if he remained unsatisfied with the Biden administration's cooperation. What is happening right now are the committees of jurisdiction are continuing to investigate and they're finding more and more information. The speaker said that's right. And we have even more. Chat says no, nothing will come of this. Casey says nothing burger. Janice highly doubts it. We will see what happens because we have so much evidence at this point. It's got to be a little bit scary for the Democrats moving forward because I don't know how they're going to get around this one. They're just trying to pretend it's nothing. But I don't think they're going to be able to keep doing that because look at this. This is kind of interesting. Hunter Biden's lawyers face sanctions after being accused of lying to the clerk in his criminal tax case as the judge orders the first son's attorneys to explain themselves by tonight. Hunter's legal team is accused of lying to the clerk with his criminal case. The alleged dirty trick was a ploy to remove testimony from IRS whistleblowers from the court docket. Oh, they're trying to scrub the IRS whistleblowers' testimony. That's interesting. I find that highly amusing. I'm here for it. Delaware Judge Mary Ellen Noriega ordered Hunter's attorneys to explain themselves by 9 p.m. tonight or be sanctioned. I hope they don't. I hope they get sanctioned. I hope they get punished as much as possible. Hunter Biden's lawyers face potential sanctions after allegedly lying to the clerk in his criminal case. Earlier today, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith filed a brief to Judge Noriega suggesting that she toss Hunter's sweetheart plea deal with Delaware prosecutors due to claims they gave the president's son preferential treatment. Oh, things are heating up for the Bidens. I could not be happier. I am consistently seeing leftists saying things like, this is just a private matter. This is none of your business. This isn't Joe Biden. We have texts from Hunter saying that he's sitting here with his father and he wants to make something happen tonight. Now we have evidence that Biden, the senior Biden, the big guy, was talking to Hunter's associates over 200 times. Yesterday I saw something like 24 times. Today it's like 200. It's crazy. Greg says, I will not believe it until it happens. Neither will I. But this evidence is interesting for sure. Let's see if I have this. Yeah, okay. Top Republican accuses White House of desperately trying to distance Joe from Hunter's shady dealings by changing its story with Devon Archer set to reveal that Biden was on 24 business calls with his son. Biden said in 2019, I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. Today, Karine Jean-Pierre said that they've never been in business together. Thank you, Karine. We know that. That's not what he said in 2019, and you are changing it. And as Ben Shapiro was saying today, as a lawyer, this is very lawyerly speak. This is very Weasley. She's getting around it. They're trying to pretend he said something he didn't say. The White House Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, is now saying Joe and Hunter were never in business together. That's right. Elise Stefanik sent a letter to White House counsel Stuart Dellery demanding answers to no response, she tells dailymail.com. I am so happy to see so many members of the GOP getting on board with this because that tells me that something might actually happen. So let's see which Republicans are on board with an impeachment. I saw the number 9, but we'll see which Republicans endorse impeachment. Okay, so I don't care about Trump's impeachment. That's absolutely nothing. This is on Twitter. Yeah, so 3 weeks ago from the New York Times, I wonder if this number has changed. Republicans are divided on impeaching Biden as panel begins new inquiry. I wonder if this panel has changed people's minds. So let's see if we can read this. If we can't, I'm not worried about it. I trust it. Yeah, okay, shut up. I hate you, your horrible organization. New York Times. Let's see if we go to the bottom. What is your conclusion? I trust your writing skills are strong enough that you have a conclusion at the bottom. Okay. Our focus on Secretary Mayorkas has been squarely over enforcement of immigration law, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't care about Mayorkas right now. Others suggested completing a case against Mayorkas would only help them build an argument against Mr. Biden, who set the policies Mr. Mayorkas has carried out. This isn't about Mayorkas. This is all about Biden. This is about Joe. This is about Hunter. And I don't know if they're going to be able to wiggle out of this one because Democrats do seem to be getting a little bit nervous about it. Oh, let's see here. Oh, this is the other thing. I found this kind of interesting. Now we know that RFK doesn't run with most of the Democrats on most any of this stuff, but he is calling for corruption investigations into Joe Biden, which honestly, good for him. Good for him. I appreciate it. Presidential candidate says release of FBI informant memo last week escalated his concern. Dem presidential candidate RFK Jr. changed tactics Sunday and demanded for the first time an investigation into possible corruption by President Biden, his party's standard bearer. Good for him. I'm glad that he's breaking with the pack. I don't agree with him on anything policy-wise. I don't really like him as a person. I think his voice alone is enough to cost him public opinion, which isn't his fault, unfortunately out of his control, but here we are. He does have Devon. No, that pronunciation is not racist. I heard someone else call him that. But here we are. Stewart says maybe Obama chef was cutting corners by using bugs for appetizers too soon. Oops. I don't think that was the case. I think that he knew something he shouldn't. And from my understanding, Hillary Clinton's personal chef also died by drowning too. So I just like to throw that out there. I found that very interesting. I have avoided criticizing the president because I'm trying to bring people together and end some of the vitriol, the poison that's made politics so poisonous. I respect it 100%. I think, though, the issues that are now coming up are worrying enough that we really need a real investigation into what happened. I mean, these revelations where you have Burisma, which is a notoriously corrupt company that paid out apparently $10 million to Hunter and his dad. If that's true, that is really troubling. Kennedy added Americans should also be worried about the politicization of federal law enforcement. Yeah, we are, but mostly on the right, because the left thinks that this will never end. This will always work in their favor. Very, very short-sighted of them, honestly, but here we are. Yeah, so I wanted to touch on that for sure. And now we're going to get into a little bit choppy waters, and I think I will wrap up here. We're going to talk about LeBron James' son. I'm just going to read you what Elon Musk had to say, because this was also my question too. Bronny James' cardiac arrest is linked to the COVID-19 vaccine, Elon Musk suggests. Twitter CEO Elon Musk weighed in on the news about the NBA legend's son. Elon Musk has sparked outrage after claiming that the COVID vaccine may have caused Bronny James' cardiac arrest. Now, for context, LeBron James' son is 18 years old. Okay? And he had cardiac arrest to the point where he was in the ICU. So let's read Elon's tweet here if they have it for us. Yes. We cannot ascribe everything to the vaccine, but by the same token, we cannot ascribe nothing. Myocarditis is a known side effect, especially, I might add, in young men. The only question is whether it is rare or common. And someone jumps in and says, my father went into cardiac arrest within hours of his second dose, developed pericarditis, suffered for months with sudden drops in blood pressure, and later died in the middle of the night from another heart attack. Never had one heart issue before that second dose. Here we have the lady with the Ukraine flag in her bio, so we know what she has to say is going to be fantastic. You have no proof or firsthand knowledge given to you directly from the family, so why are you out here speculating about something so deeply personal and painful about his condition? He didn't die, okay? He just was in the hospital. More power to him. He's been upgraded. He's no longer in the ICU. Happy for him. We know myocarditis was more common in young men who got the vaccine. Sorry, YouTube. It's just the way it is. We have this information. Janice says, I'm praying for him, but hoping it will shed light if it is vax related. Now, I don't know. I don't know if it will, because Jamie Foxx was struggling with some really severe side effects that some people were accrediting to the vaccine too. I don't know if that was the case at all. No way of knowing. He was forced to get vaccinated so he could keep working in Hollywood, and he did so. And from my recollection, he wasn't very happy about it. No, that wasn't him. That was Ice Cube that wasn't happy about it. Surenko says, isn't Elon vaxxed? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm sure we'll just see stories about this. Okay. I'm going to change the time range that we are looking at. So it's not from any time. Let's go to a custom range. Let's say from, let's say as far back as we can go. As soon as we had the vaccine, let's say August to August 2022. Go. Bam. Okay, so he's a skeptic. Nope. He refused to take the COVID vaccine. Elon Musk is saying that he and his family are vaccinated, but that mandates for the masses are an erosion of freedom. He says he and his eligible children are vaccinated against COVID-19. Right, but he's against COVID mandates. Good for him. Okay, cool. Nope, he is vaccinated, but he was resisting it for the time being. Yeah, weird. Supposedly has COVID again. Yeah, well, lots of people are getting... There was one guy who was talking about his COVID vaccination status and how he was certainly 100% vaccinated and he got it 3 different times. And at this point, don't care at all. But I just thought that was really interesting. We will see what happens with that. I do hope that it's not related to the vaccine, but at the same time, it could be pointing to something major for LeBron James' son. Hopefully, whatever it is gets cleared up. We'll see what happens moving forward. Oh yeah, I just thought this was interesting. I'll just mention it in closing. Secret Service vet on White House cocaine. Somebody's stopping this from being thoroughly investigated. If you're not going to interview them, then all 500 people should never be allowed back in the White House again because they're all suspects. Yes, someone just doesn't want the truth to come to light, and I think we all know exactly why that is. 100%. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it here. I'm again having a hard time with it. Waffle says Elon took the first vaccine. That's all. Interesting. Yeah, I know lots of people who took the first one because they were required to do so and then just said, no more, I'm not going to do it. In fact, I know people who intentionally took a certain kind of vaccine because it was only 1 dose rather than 2. And that's probably the most rational choice you can make if you were being forced to do it in order to travel or be part of school or whatever. All right, you guys, I am short of breath this evening, and I hope that you all are doing better with the whole breathing thing than I am. I hope that you guys are all staying cool this evening for sure. It's getting darker and we're going to head over to the pool, I think. Andy says everyone who pushed for mandates has blood on their hands. If it turns out young men and especially children are more likely to die as a result of cardiac issues due to the vaccine, then their chances of dying of COVID, ... I entirely agree. 100%. 100%. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we'll start to recover from this all because it seems like you're darned if you did get COVID and darned if you didn't and if you got vaccinated. All right, you guys, we'll call it a night. I will see you all tomorrow. Stay safe, stay well, stay out of Target. I will see you all next time. Until then, bye, guys.
How's it going?